Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Sportscaster Dan podcast. I haven't done one of these in a while, and we're also making it a video as well, so you can watch it on one of my YouTube channels, the Sportscaster Dan YouTube channel. But you can also subscribe to the podcast, or these days follow the podcast, because you don't have to pay to follow the podcast in all of the major podcast directories. But I want to talk about this golf situation. The PGA Tour has lowered the boom, as I put this together on June the 9th, lowered the boom, led by Commissioner Jay Monahan, saying that if you play on the LIV Golf Tour, then you are suspended from the PGA. Now, he has not said how long the suspension is going to be. There has been no mention of a lifetime ban. Here's what we do now. Here's what we do know. The golf war is on. There is a war in professional golf right now between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. Greg Norman, who is the commissioner of LIV Golf. Of course, we know that there is Saudi Arabian money backing LIV Golf. I'm not going to get into the geopolitics of all of this. And I know some on the PGA Tour side are now trying to make this geopolitical, but I think they tread in dangerous waters if they go in that direction, simply because you've got a lot of sports right now that are trying to integrate themselves into areas of the world where there are geopolitical problems. So for the PGA Tour to make this a geopolitical argument, or supporters of the PGA Tour to make this a geopolitical argument, I think that's, believe it or not, a sidebar to the story. It's not the main story. The main story right now is a player's ability to earn a living. And Phil Mickelson is among those who obviously is in the vanguard. He has not resigned from the PGA Tour, but he's now playing in LIV Golf. He was playing today in the first round of the first ever event over in London. And his argument has always been the players are not seeing PGA Tour money. In order to win money on the PGA Tour, you have to make the cut and then finish in the money. And the big money obviously comes when you win a tournament or finish second or third or in the top 10. But there are no appearance fees, no guaranteed money, and that's what LIV Golf offers. And in the case of Phil Mickelson, from what we have been reading, he got $200 million, plus an opportunity to compete for prize money. And by the way, first place prize money in one of the LIV Golf tournaments is $4 million. $4 million. I believe second place prize money is $2.5 million. 48 golfers compete, 54 holes, no cuts. So if somebody comes along and waves $200 million in front of you, particularly when you're past your prime earning years on the tour, or even in the case of Dustin Johnson, who was in his prime and resigned from the PGA Tour and supposedly signed for $125 million plus the opportunity to win money, then what are you going to do? You're going to turn that down? You're going to say no to that? I don't think so. So this is where we are as far as the golf war going on. And it is a golf war between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. You've got the U.S. Open taking place next week, and the U.S. Open has said that right now they are not going to ban any golfer who qualifies for the U.S. Open who's playing in the LIV tournament. So Phil Mickelson, for example, will be playing in the U.S. Open next week in Brookline. Dustin Johnson will be playing in the U.S. Open next week in Brookline. You could see what the PGA Tour is attempting to do, drive a wedge between the tour and those players who are on the tour and those who are playing LIV Golf. But Justin Thomas isn't buying any of that. He's playing in the Canadian Open this week. And he said, although he was disappointed that some of these players have left, he can understand. And he can understand because guess what? They might be waving, let's say, $250 million in front of Justin Thomas. And then what does JT do? And what Phil Mickelson is arguing is you can't deny these golfers an opportunity to make a living. And I think that's what the battle is going to be once this ends up in the courts. And it's going to end up in court. I don't think there's any doubt about it. When the PGA comes along and suspends you, and if that suspension turns into a lifetime ban, I think Graham McDowell, former U.S. Open winner, pointed it out, saying, well, it could end up in the court. Hey, bet your life it could end up in the court. So all this is going to be fascinating, and golf has never seen anything like this before. Now, years ago, there was talk, I believe it was Fox Sports, of forming a competitor to the PGA Tour, offering guaranteed money plus big prize money. Never came to fruition, but there has been talk of this before. This happened in baseball going back to the late 40s, early 1950s, where a couple of money men in Mexico tried to entice Major League Baseball players to leave Major League Baseball and go down to Mexico and play for big, big money. And the baseball commissioner stepped in and said, well, if you leave and go play baseball in Mexico, you're not coming back. You're banned for life from MLB. It never really amounted to much, but there has been precedence for this. And it just hasn't happened in the last, 70 years. But there is some precedent, and believe it or not, it happened in baseball. But this is entirely a fascinating story. You could see it bubbling back in January when Greg Norman was pushing the LIV Tour. And remember, he's the commissioner. He's upset with the PGA. Let's go back to Mickelson for just a moment. Mickelson said the PGA Tour signed this big television deal with several of the networks getting hundreds of millions of dollars, and the players don't see that money. And that's his argument. They don't see this money. And when you look at other sports, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, these players are signing for big money, and then they get the opportunity to make even more money if they qualify for the playoffs and then win the championship. And I think Mickelson is looking for the same type of system. Here's the bottom line. The paradigm is changing in golf, and the PGA Tour, I believe, is going to have to offer guaranteed money to these players. They're going to have to do that because otherwise they're going to lose even more players to LIV Golf. Remember, PGA Tour signed this big, big deal with the television networks for hundreds of millions of dollars. Those TV networks expect to get in return marquee players. And if the marquee players are going over to LIV Golf, then the television networks are not getting the money they invested in the golf package. So this is just the beginning. The commissioner playing hardball right now, but I don't see how it continues. I could be way off base on this, but I believe the players win in the end when it goes to court, and it will go to court. And their argument will be they should not be denied the opportunity to earn a living. And one body can't automatically deny them that opportunity to earn a living. So we'll see. But the end result of all of this is you will see major changes in the PGA Tour. It has to be. And among those major changes will be guaranteed money, and you might see the elimination of the cut. But big changes are brewing in golf, and it's just starting. And it got started this week when those who said LIV Golf would never happen not only is happening, but big name players are jumping from the PGA Tour to go play LIV Golf. And who can blame them when they're waving all this money in front of you, guaranteed money? And by the way, there's just 8 tournaments on the LIV Golf Tour. 8. So a lot of these golfers could play golf on the LIV Tour, then play the majors if they're not denied. And remember, the Masters is not associated with the PGA. The U.S. Open is not associated with the PGA. The PGA Tournament, one of the majors, not associated with the PGA Tour. The British Open, not associated with the PGA Tour. So these players could play for guaranteed money in all of the LIV Tour events, play the 4 majors if they're not banned. And right now the U.S. Open hasn't offered any kind of a ban or made any kind of a ban. They can play in those tournaments, play 12 times a year, and then take the rest of the year off, work on their golf game, spend more time with their family, and make more money than they could have ever imagined if they stayed just on the PGA Tour. So the PGA Tour is facing a moment of reckoning. That's going to do it for the Sportscaster Dan podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on my YouTube channel. And we've got some big, speaking of changes, some changes coming up as far as the Sportscaster Dan podcast is concerned, not only for those listening to the podcast, but those watching on YouTube. Thanks for your support.